Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Always my pleasure to be with you guys live on The Unlocked Show. Today, I want to talk about, I suppose I'm going to call it a little elephant in the room. I've been in a number of different podcasting and live show Facebook groups, and over the last number of weeks, I've seen this question come up time and time again. So I thought I would actually do a show on it on a day when a guest was not able to show up. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So the topic of discussion today is, what the heck do you do when your scheduled guest doesn't actually show up? And they can, sometimes they don't show up for a myriad of different reasons. They might be unwell, their stuff happens, it's life. So we don't stress about that. But what I wanted to talk about was, what are some of the alternatives? How can you prevent yourself from hyperventilating, getting all stressed out and wondering, what the heck do I do when your show is actually live? So I know that there's a lot of time, effort, and organization that goes in to creating your own live show. So what do I mean by a live show versus a recorded show? Obviously, when we're going live, it is live. Like, you're pushing the go live button and you are live at a specific time that you have scheduled into your calendar on a weekly basis. And as you know, with the Unlock Show, I go live twice a week at 10 a.m. On the odd occasion, I'll do a recorded show to give me a bit of a reprieve and allow me to go away and do some personal stuff and spend time with my family. But in the main, the vast majority of my shows, they are live. So if ever I'm having a guest with me, it's a live show. They need to be in my broadcasting room, 10 minutes before the show goes live, minimum, so that we can do a whole lot of sound testing, visual testing, have a bit of a chat, and give everybody a bit of the rundown on how a live show works and operates. But from time to time, again, for whatever reason, the person's not able to be with me live, because life happens, shit happens. Sometimes people just can't make it. So instead of, in the early days, it was like, oh my God, panic stations, what do I do? What have I got to do? How do I, do I just not do my show? And I want to say that in this live show arena, that is not an option. So we just take that off the table, and you want to take that off the table for yourself, because if you're committed to doing a live show, you want to make sure that the show goes on regardless of whether, your guest shows up or not. So I want to talk about two things here. One is, what can you do to actually help your guests to be, to make sure that they're there and they're actually able to be on your show. So I'll talk through some of the processes that we use that, work the vast majority of the time. But like I said, life happens and sometimes it doesn't work. Things just don't always go to plan. And then secondly, what are some of the risks? We talk about the risk minimization or mitigation, and then what do you do in the event that your guest isn't able to show up so that you can continue to go live? So the first thing, let's talk about kind of the organization and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So it is no easy feat to set up these kind of, to be committed to doing a show on the regular, and finding guests sometimes can also be a little bit of a challenge. However, I have done multiple shows on where to find your guests, how to find them, and we teach our students inside of our programs where to find really good, high quality guests that in the main show up, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time. So, you want to look for some of those episodes. I'll link those episodes in the description below so that you can listen to those at a later date. But some of the things that we actually do, so in terms of communication with the person, we want to make sure that we're communicating with them, in advance. And often those that are coming on the Unlock Show, now they're actually booking right into August and September of 2022. I'm fully booked right up until that point. So often what will happen is, if you're in a similar situation to that, is that a guest will be like, yep, I'm all excited and I want to do that today. But then they forget, because it's like it could be 6 months down the track before their scheduled live showtime rolls around. So it's really important that we continue to follow up and we remind them as often as we can that their show is coming up. So here's the schedule that we generally work with. So we would go out, we would say, hey, yes, you're the right sort of fit for the Unlock show or for one of the other shows that we produce on the Metadime Digital Network, and we would approve everything. We get all of their details and their show, details and what it is that they're going to be speaking about, so that we can prepare all of our marketing materials beforehand. Then usually what I would recommend that you do, and this is what we do, is we follow up a week out. So most people, like I said, if you're booking well in advance, you need to give them that kind of tap on the shoulder. Don't forget, it's your show time in a week's time from now. And that way, that gives you enough time to be able to continue the communication. And if they know that they're not able to show up, on their scheduled day or time, that they can always let you know early. And that gives you a bit of time to reschedule and book somebody else in. We're usually doing promos a week out. So a week at the absolute latest would be the time frame that we would prefer that somebody let us know that they're not able to attend. Then a day before the show, and then an hour before the show. And often, if I get into my back office, into my broadcasting studio, and my person's not here, kind of within 10 to 15 minutes before a show, I'm usually messaging them again just to let them know, hey, here's the link. We're ready to go on a show. Now, let's say that all of those things you do, and for whatever reason, the person is not here. You're sitting, waiting in your broadcasting room. And if you're like me in the early days, heart palpitations, wondering, what shall I do? Where is the person? Do I just abandon the show? Do I, try and find somebody else at this short notice? Do I try and do a solo show? What the heck do I do in that state of panic at that time? Well, there's a number of things that you can do. And the more prepared you can get for this, the better. So you always want to go into this kind of live show realm, knowing and understanding that sometimes things don't go the way that we planned, because that's life. So what do you do to prevent yourself from having heart palpitations, swearing and cursing and wondering where the person is and, what the heck do I do? Well, it becomes really, really simple. And again, in one of my earlier episodes of the Unlock Show, I've actually spoken through how I create a whole bunch of content ideas and topics. And again, we'll link that in the description section below. I would highly recommend that you listen to that show, because it will give you an idea and a process that you can go through to start coming up with concepts and ideas. Why do you want that? Well, in a situation like today where the guest was unable to attend, or that has happened in the past, what do? I just simply open up my trusty list of content topics that I have pre-prepared earlier, and I can just pick one of those off the list and off I go and I speak about it. So today, when I had this situation, and because I'd seen this conversation being had in multiple groups over the last few weeks, I know that this is a topic that is on people's mind. It is something that can often stress people out if you're doing a live show or you're doing a podcast. So people are often asking, what do I do in that situation? So I knew when I went to my trusty list of topics, I just pull one off the shelf and go, do you know what? I can talk about that. And what happens when you've got the knowledge or on a particular subject, you can speak about it with ease. And I share with all of my students how to do this very specific system, how you can put together your show almost at the drop of a hat. Like today, I had 5 minutes to go, right, what's the new topic? Do a quick switcheroony of everything with, show branding, et cetera, and I can push play and be going and be able to talk about that particular topic, like I said, at the drop of a hat. So we've talked about some of the things that we do pre-show. So ideally, ensure that your guest shows up and that you have somebody there on the screen with you. And what do we do if they don't show up, so that you can just click go go live and be able to continue on with your show, because in this world, the show must go on always. So what do we do? Sometimes you only have a very short space of time to be able to do the quick switcheroony and get your new show up and running. But because I use a system called StreamYard makes it really easy for me to be able to edit the time. So the very first thing that I do is obviously make the decision. Don't panic. Just pull out my trusty list of show topics, knowing what's kind of top of mind and interesting at that particular time. And then I jump into I'm already in the back office of my StreamYard, just go to the branding and I quickly switch everything out. And I also click the edit button that enables me to reschedule my show. So I give myself a little bit more time to be able to get myself composed and in order and gather my thoughts ready to go. Now with StreamYard and with the connection or the integration through Facebook, it will allow for you to be no more than 10 minutes late if you're doing a live show. If you've scheduled something, it will cut you off after 10 minutes. So really important that, if you're finding yourself not able to reshape everything within that 10 minutes, then I would recommend that you just hit the edit button, give yourself another 10 minutes to get yourself organized. And then once you're organized, don't stress about it. No biggie. Hit go, hit, live broadcast and off you go, which is exactly what I did today. Switch out the banners and off you go. Now, what's in the next thing is, and this is another question that I've had, that I've been seeing, our students asking and also seeing in other Facebook groups that I'm in. So the guest didn't show up. What do I now do? Do I continue to, how many chances do I give that person to be on my live show? Now, I don't worry about the fact that they weren't able to show up live at the time, because like I've said multiple times throughout today's show, life happens, things happen, people aren't able to show up for various different reasons. I don't speculate, I don't go down the path of, why weren't they here, all of those sorts of things. Just, they weren't here, move on, do your live show, and then just reach back out to them and let them know that you missed them on that day and that you would love to have them back. The simple fact that you decided in the first instance that they were going to be a great guest for your show usually indicates that they're going to be a great guest for your show. So go back and give them another chance. I'd often give them one more chance, and then if they're not going to show up again, boy, you're probably not going to go back there again and give it another. Well, they say twice bitten, once shy. So, you wouldn't go back there again. But again, it might just be, hey, what do I need to do to make sure that, we're able to get you on the show? Because I'd really love to have you on to make sure that, we don't miss it another time. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. But I think it really does come down to the attitude and your intention with your shows. Comes down to, the way that you approach it. If we're going to get all stressed out and ticked off with it all and not do your show, then you probably are just going to cause yourself some undue stress. But you can just say, hey, it is what it is. Let's grab another topic, and I'm meant to be talking about this particular topic today. That's kind of how I approach it. If things happen in life, I just go, hey, do you know what? Wasn't meant to be on that day. That person wasn't supposed to be there on that day. But the day that they are going to be live on the show is absolutely the right day that they should have been here. So I always look at things from that perspective, and I'd encourage you to do the same. That way you're not going to get hung up about things. You're not going to get stressed about it, and you can just carry on and continue to do your show like the professional that you are. So those are some of the things that I would recommend that you do if your guest doesn't show up. Make sure that you've got plenty of options available to yourself so that you can just go boom and be speaking about your subject matter, and off you go. And you don't have to keep talking to try and fill up the space. If you intended to do a half-hour show, and when you're doing a solo at the last minute, if it's only 15 minutes, it is what it is. It's more about delivering the value and delivering something valuable for your audience, rather than just trying to fill up the show with with rubbish talk, so to speak. So that being said, guys, I want to say thanks very much for joining me today. I hope this has helped you and encourage you to not be afraid to do your own live show, because this is actually one of the things that I think, can often make people a little bit stressed and a little bit wary of doing a live show in particular. It's the what if something goes wrong. But what you want to do is just make sure you think through what are all the, what's the worst case scenarios. And let's face it, a guest not showing up or you having to do a solo show is not the end of the world. It's not a life or death situation. Off you go. You just start talking about, your subject matter that you know well, and you continue to do a show and it'll be great. So that being said, I want to say thanks very much for joining me today. That's what you need to do if your guest does not show up for your live show or your podcast. You just carry on, because that's what it's about, living your life unlocked. No stress. We just carry on as we were. All right, guys, so have a fantastic rest of the week. I'm going to be back again this Friday with another episode of The Unlock Show. Most likely, because I'm sort of in the frame of mind of talking about everything live show and podcasting, it's likely that I'm going to speak about something else in that's relevant to that particular subject matter, but I might equally speak about something that was going to help you to grow your online program or business, because that's also something that I'm very, very passionate about. All right, guys, have a fantastic rest of the week. I will see you on another episode of The Unlock Show on Friday at 10 a.m. Have a fantastic week, and bye for now.